This channel is proudly brought to you by... I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch!
Linking on my brain. Okay. Linking on my brain. I got linking on my brain. Whoa.
What's up, guys? It's Mike the MGTOW man again, bringing you another video. So in this video, I'd like to explain not only where we are today, but where we might be headed in the future. And I also want to take the time to explain how this used to be a man's world, and how it needs to be in the future, as well as how important it is to hold the line and remember all of the statistics and all of the facts that led to us going MGTOW. Because if there's a collapse, they're going to try to blame us. There's going to be a lot of misinformation. And if there's a collapse and there's no internet, there won't be any way to state our case with researchable facts. So we'll have to remember these facts. You know, people are always asking me if I hate women. And I tell them, no, I don't hate women. I'm simply disappointed in the individuals society encouraged women to become, and the products that they have become. Like I said, this world should have been a man's world. It should have been. And personally, I think women have the minds of children. Because when you look, when they don't get their way, they kick and scream. When you don't listen, they just get louder and louder until you give in or get tinnitus. And another reason why I feel like women are childlike is due to the universal truth that children cannot feed themselves. And let's not beat around the bush here. Yes, when I say children can't feed themselves, I'm saying women are children and also cannot feed themselves without the provisions that we men provide. And as far as calling a woman childlike, well, it's fact. And that's what they are mentally. Fucking children. And before you disagree, just think about all of the times you've ever argued with a woman and then tell me that I'm wrong. And also take a moment to think about what it takes for there to be food on the shelves at the grocery store. If you were honest with yourself, it's men who feed women, and it's men who feed children, and it's men who feed themselves. Even if women go to work and earn a wage to buy the cereal that is on that shelf, they did not plow the fields or create the plow that plows it. They don't maintain the plow either. Nor do they come up with innovations to improve the plowing of fields. Nor did they harvest the grain, let alone plant the grain itself. Nor do they process the harvest or drive the delivery trucks. So yes, even if they go to work and do a 9 to 5 and earn a wage, it's still mostly men that make sure that they eat. And yes, it's because of men that the air conditioning is, running smoothly. And the electricity that keeps their laptops on, it's running smoothly. So she's able to go to that office. And it's because of men who, create these complex highways and make it possible to provide and maintain and process shipped goods, as well as send them to the grocery store. And if you think about it, knowing all of this, a woman wouldn't even be able to be a cashier at the grocery store itself if it wasn't for all of the things leading up to the products on the shelf that they're even selling to begin with. All of the things that men are doing, of course, that lead up to that. And so, with all of the things that we as men do to sustain our societies that we build. I'd say that yes, this should be a man's world. Only it's not anymore, is it? Once upon a time, men weren't just responsible for the creation of society, but the creation and maintenance of the family structures as well. And we were once damn proud of that. We were not only quick to accept our responsibilities, but we were grateful to contribute at all. But society has forgotten our sacrifices. And sadly, the world no longer values a man's sacrifice or contribution that he makes to society and to his family, because the modern age would have it that a man is nothing more than a checkbook and a means to an end. Society calls us the oppressor while ironically oppressing us and dehumanizing us daily. And they ignore our value. In fact, many of us men wake up the moment we realize just how disposable we truly are. Disposable not only to just women, but to the government as well. You know, the same women and same government that tells us men that it is our duty to protect them, women in the government. Ironically, even though they lie to us for our tax dollars and enslave us for our tax dollars, we don't see the fruits of that labor. This government continues to turn its back on protecting us because we are men. To both women and the government, we men are nothing more than just the plow horse. And sadly, we are also the meat sack that fill their battlegrounds with our blood. We do this even when the moral motive for war is unclear or unapparent. We still go charging to the front lines, don't we, gentlemen? Still, we are laying down our lives for those wars. And just like women need us to feed them, and to do all of the necessary labors to put that box of cereal on the shelf, the government also needs men to hold the line for them when they plead for our disposability in times of war. But what happens when we men say no to both? What happens when we say no to being disposable for women and the government? Think about it. And you know, sometimes I fear that if we opt out on a mass scale, and still no one listens to us, that they will blame MGTOW for the cause of the predicted future social and economic collapse. And they will blame us because we refuse both positions. And it's very clear that the positions that we refuse are the enslavement of men by marriages and the disposability of men by the government. So naturally, if they don't fix things to be in our favor as men, like nature intended, like it's supposed to be, if they don't make it favorable to create a family, much less lead a marriage, and if they continue to enslave men for wanting to reproduce, then yes, MGTOW will become quite popular, and it might actually lead to a mass spiral in all of our country's populations, and even on a global-wide scale. Which, by the way, all countries that have foolishly adopted feminism are all experiencing a population decline. And some of it is obviously due to abortions, and the fact that many men don't want to enslave themselves to women in order to simply reproduce. So the West was already in a decline over the last few decades or so before MGTOW even showed up. But they're going to blame us. It's always a man's fault, isn't it, guys? And I also fear that if the blame continues to be put on us, instead of the blame being put on the government for ruining marriage and the family structure, if the blame is continuously put on us instead of the fact that unrestrained dark female nature is what made us not want them, if the blame continues to be placed on us, I fear that one day social justice might be reinstated to a point that blue-pilled men will become very hostile towards men like us. And I fear that they won't just seek to censor us, but seek to completely wipe us off the face of the earth. And I fear that they will do this someday during the collapse that we predicted, by pulling us into the streets for public execution. And if you think I'm joking, they're already talking about this. I've heard many feminists say that if a population collapse comes, that they hope that everybody finds us. I've seen that type of snarky remark in my own comment section. So don't assume that they won't try to attack us later or hunt us down, which is the exact reason why you should never show your face. That's why we talk about, don't talk about Fight Club. It's to keep you safe. But I do fear that someday, during that collapse, they will try to pull us into the streets for public executions. And look, guys, I know that sounds insane. And I really don't want to start sounding like Alex Jones here. But when you see the big picture, you will see that yes, we might be in the right as MGTOW. But it could also lead to a global-wide population collapse. However, you see, we are not going to sit here and carry the lion's share of blame. Because when it comes to the collapse of the future, I want you to think of this for a second. You see, feminism was already working on depopulation long before MGTOW decided to opt out of reproduction. In fact, since the 1970s, it has been heavily documented that women have killed well over 54 million of their own offspring. 54 million of their own offspring. I mean, come on. How is any of this our faults? When logically, that 54 million notch count of dead babies, it could have helped to populate millions. Millions. And it could have helped populate millions of future working taxpayers to sustain our American culture. And logically, that 54 million dead babies could have helped to provide future companies and businesses with millions of future willing workers. But the truth is that the moment that we allowed hypergamous nature, this dark hypergamous nature of women out of its cage, that was the exact pivotal moment that suddenly it did not matter how many millions of babies women decided to kill, so long as they could ride the cock carousel. And look, I'm not here to support or not support abortion. However, I realize that they will blame the future population collapse on men like us for simply opting out of this shit, this entire shit show. Because we opt out of it, they're going to blame all of it on us. That is exactly why we ought to never forget about these abortion numbers. Just never forget it. Never fucking forget those goddamn numbers. So when they try to point the fingers at us, bring it up. 54 million and climbing. So in truth, this world has always been a man's world. Until now. And as far as calling it a man's world, we truly earned that right to call it ours. But now it's been hijacked. You see, when you look historically throughout history, you will see that historically, through our creativity and our ambitions and our sacrifices and our suffering, we did in fact earn the right for this world to be ours. And we damn sure didn't fuck or cry our way to the top to get there and to get to where we are today. And we didn't use our gender label to get here either. We fought for what we have and what we used to have. Fought hard. And not just in war. We fought hard for every technological comfort that we enjoy today. And that's exactly why they want to rewrite history altogether. And they want to do so by painting all men, both past and present, as being evil men. Because you see, they don't want men to be proud of anything anymore, or to feel free anymore. They want us to simply forget. They want us to simply forget how we got here, because they are hiding the destination that we are all headed. This is Mike the MGTOW Man signing off, and as always, never give in, never surrender, never accept the blame for the population collapse. MGTOW for life.
Feminism is cancer. Thank you very much.
Man, these hoes ain't loyal. There ain't nothing to invest in. She'll tell you she love your dog. Go and fuck your best friend. Then she hit you with that line. Like, I think we should be friends. So y'all break up on Monday? She sucking dick by the weekend. I swear my ex, she a demon. When it fucked a nigga in the same bed we sleeping. Shit, I ain't believe it. I was out working. She was home creeping. Came home early and I caught the nigga leaving. I'm like, damn, that's deep as shit. See, I don't hit women, but I beat that bitch. No, I'm playing, but I really had to treat that trick. Look the nigga in his eyes, told him keep that bitch. So this a letter to my ex, bitch. You the reason I'm a dog, got my next bitch. You the reason why my heart is cold as shit. You the reason why I call a bitch a bitch.